Catherine Full Body is a masterclass in showcasing the modern human experience. Now, many will look at this game, see a skimpy ass hoe on the cover and be like, yeah, haha, no. I know what kind of game this is, pass. And reading further that the main premise revolves around cheating and infidelity, good luck finding an audience. Imagine wanting to play as a two-timing scumbag who can't keep it in his pants. I can't. But CFB is more than it appears. Its raunchy first impressions mask what lies within, an examination and deep dive into the struggles of modern adults. Many games that deal with quote-unquote mature themes and content do so in a way that can come across as preachy, eye-rolling, or shallow. Oh wow, look at how this one group oppresses another. Isn't racism bad, you guys? Look how bad it is. This character has to make a choice between what he wants and what would be better for everyone. Wow, so deep and thought-provoking. Our game deals with death, loss, and sacrifice. You know, mature themes for a mature audience. Mature. Yes, we know, we get it. We've been hit over the head with these so many times, we have more concussions than we can count. And while these games bring up interesting topics for discussion, they often stay in the realm of hypotheticals because of how far removed the player is from what the character is experiencing in-game. We never find ourselves in those positions, so it's hard for us to say for certain how we'd really react. But Catherine Full Body reaches the player in a different way, a more relatable way. Now you might be thinking, what? How could I ever relate with this cheater? And that's how I felt when I first looked at Vincent Brooks. It doesn't help that his inability to have a simple conversation with his SO really grinds my gears. But as you keep playing and watching each episode of his life unfold, you'll find that you connect with Vincent, his friends, and the people he meets, not because of the situations they find themselves in, but because they're struggling and grappling with the same internal dilemmas that we all feel every day. Do we live a life of comfort and safety even if it feels structured, boring, and bland? Do we pursue freedom and impulsiveness at the risk of future stability and happiness? Can we truly be accepted for who we are? Or do we need to sacrifice parts of ourselves so we can fit in? This game isn't about cheating and infidelity, even though the whole story is centered around it. Catherine Full Body asks you to reflect on the relationship between these opposing life values and your experience being pulled between them. #TooReal. This sets CFB apart from other games. Though wacky and supernatural occurrences make the title feel utterly ridiculous and foreign, the internal struggle and conflict depicted are wholly relatable and familiar, allowing players to connect with it in a way that hits closer to home. Maybe too close. What makes a mature story? Is it sex? Is it nudity? Is it blood and violence? I mean, I guess, but I feel like that's kind of a cop-out. It's such a surface way of looking at it. A mature story, I think, is one that tackles complex themes and issues to which there is often no correct answer or path. The goal isn't to say what's right and what's wrong, but to incite introspection and reflection within the audience. Catherine, to me, seems so unique in that it manages to navigate this so well. You would think that for a game based around infidelity, there would be an obvious right and wrong. But no, it doesn't take sides, and it doesn't try to preach or push an agenda. It simply asks the player to reflect on their life choices and choose. And when you look at the romances as that, each a personification of those different values and lifestyles pulling on Vincent, you start to wonder if he and Catherine would be happier apart than together. People change, feelings change. What we want today may not be what we want in a few years. So many games brush over this by fading to black and cutting to credits. But it's this kind of nuance that Catherine gets so right. It showcases, in such a real way, the messiness of our relationships, lives, motivations, and internal struggles. CFB doesn't sugarcoat or shy away from the hard times. It presents them as they are, as we know them, raw and uncensored. In doing so, the player is able to take away something real from the experience, blurring the line between game and real life. And I think it's that aspect, and not the skinship scenes, that qualifies it as a mature story worth our attention. Before Catherine Full Body, I played Yoko Taro's newest game, Voice of Cards. Voice of Cards is a game that styles itself as a tabletop RPG, but one of the biggest issues I had with it was how the whole journey was on rails. Did he phone it in? It kinda felt like it, since player choice amounted to nothing but flavor text, and consequence and repercussion were nowhere to be found. In a game trying to feel like a tabletop RPG. Why do I bring this up? Because in all the ways Voice of Cards failed with choice and consequence, Catherine succeeds. Catherine Full Body has 13 different endings, each path dictated by your interactions with the different characters in the game. There are rippling consequences for everything you say, everything you do, or in some cases, not do. Even talking to the side characters in the nightmare have an effect on the outcome of Vincent's story, some of whom you don't meet until the very end. What I'm trying to say is, there are a lot of choices to be made in this game, and each choice carries weight. Each choice, no matter how large or small, will shift and bend the river of Vincent's life, leading us to new and different outcomes, not just palette swaps. In this way, CFB embodies that tabletop RPG spirit so much more than Voice of Cards does, or even other games that champion player choice and agency, like Mass Effect. It really took me by surprise to find it here, in this game, and not only did they do it, they pulled it off so well, giving a diverse spread of endings that make players feel like their choices and decisions truly did matter. Every text, every sext, every question that I answered or ignored was another step towards Vincent's freedom, desires, or redemption. So many games struggle to do this, to have player choices feel impactful and meaningful, like they matter. And yet here it is, a shining example of it done right, hidden away in a social experiment posing as a visual novel puzzle game. Being an adult is hard. All the pressures of life and society can make you wish you could go back to the way things were before, to when you were young and free of responsibility. But the world keeps marching on, keeps moving forward, and if you don't move, you get left behind. This is the reality Vincent knows, but struggles to accept. Catherine is striking in how accurately it portrays the difficulties modern adults face. Love, trust, temptation, betrayal, and camaraderie are all too familiar for anyone living in the modern age. And as a result, we can see ourselves and our friends waving back at us whenever we look at Vincent, Johnny, Orlando, Catherine, and the other bargoers. Our problems are not so much a matter of life and death, though it can at times feel like it, but navigating the daunting wall of responsibilities, relationships, and expectations set by society and those around us. This game gets it, and it's scary how close it can hit to home. Now, is it because I just so happen to be 32 this year, same as Mr. Brooks? I don't know, it's probably just a coincidence. But with everything that's been going on in the world the past few years, I think we've all taken some time to reflect on what it is we want in life, and can relate to Vincent's internal conflict. I'll be the first to admit that there were/are times when I find myself thinking about what's important to me. Am I being true to myself? Or am I just following the herd? Do I want to go the safer, more secure route, even if it seems boring and bland? Or do I want to make my own way, living how I want, at the possible risk of comfort and stability in the future? I often find myself swinging back and forth depending on the day, and I'm sure many others have too. It's easy to fall into the trap of indecisiveness, similar to Vincent, to stretch things out and not make a choice, not take a stand, because we're afraid to walk into the unknown. But if there's one lesson we can take away from Vincent's story, it's that as long as you follow the values important to you, there are no wrong choices. So that's reassuring at least. I've never played a game like Catherine, and it's not because it's a cheating simulator where you pull blocks in your boxers. Catherine just hits different. It's unexpectedly deep and surprising at how strongly it can grab hold of you. Its central themes and conflict are so well written and interwoven with its gameplay elements. I'm kind of in awe at how something this good and this well designed can even exist. Rarely do we find experiences that can shape and mold our perspectives in the way this game does, reaching through the screen and speaking to us like we're adults, not talking down to us, not trying to coddle us, but like we're, well, equals. So much attention and money these days are spent on amazing visuals or chasing the latest gaming trend that it feels like story, writing, themes, and nuance are being thrown to the wayside. Games like Catherine come once or twice in a generation, often sitting under a pile of annualized AAA releases. And while I'm glad I finally got around to playing this amazing game, a part of me cries knowing how criminally underrated and underexposed it is, and most likely will continue to be.